Somebody who got a job in the civil or public service in January 2011 or after.
Actually, no. Two-tier pay scales were introduced in 2010, but unions got rid of them through negotiations 3 years later. Now there's just one pay scale for everyone. Two-tier pay scales were imposed across the public service by the late Brian Lenihan in 2010.
The government's idea was that new staff would permanently earn 10% less than their colleagues throughout their careers, from the day they began work to the day they retired from the top of the scale.
These scales were in place for 3 years, running parallel to the old higher scale. Impact and other unions opposed this, and in 2013, during negotiations on a pay deal called the Haddington Road Agreement, we returned to a single tier of pay scales.
Now everyone is on the same pay scale, and we all end up earning the same amount.
Not exactly. The price we paid was that 2 new pay points were added at the bottom of the unified pay scale.
That means 1, new staff start on lower pay than they would have if they joined before 2011, and 2, it takes them 2 years longer than other staff to reach the top of the scale.
That's the simplest solution, but the government won't go there.
They say there's generally no problem recruiting staff at those salaries, and they won't pay more than they have to hire new workers.
We don't accept that argument, but the simple solution would cause us another problem anyway.
That's because getting rid of the first 2 points would help brand new recruits, but not those who joined earlier and are now on the 3rd point or above.
Well, Impact reckons the solution is to remove 2 incremental points from each pay scale, but not from the bottom. This would mean faster progress up the scale and an equal scale length for staff who joined the public service before and after 2011. All new entrants could benefit, not just those on the 1st or 2nd point.
It depends if the new pay deal is accepted in ballots. If it is, we'll have a process where unions and management will address the length of the scales. That's shorthand for dealing with the outstanding new entrant issue by removing 2 points from each scale.
That's what the negotiation will be about, and it might not be the same 2 points for every grade or occupation, as the pay scales vary in length. Some are just 5 or 6 points, others take as long as 27 years to reach the top. The trick will be to remove increment points in a way that benefits new entrants.
That resolves it for virtually everyone, including impact grades like SNAs, health and social care professionals, and clerical and admin staff.
It doesn't fully work for some grades for 2 reasons. First, an old arrangement of starting new teachers on the 3rd scale point rather than the 1st was also abolished during the crisis.
Second, an allowance called the HDIP allowance was also removed for new 2nd level teachers as part of a wider cull of allowances across the public service.
Both of these are worth a significant amount to teachers, but current government shows no sign of unwinding them.
We didn't. The 2-tier pay scales were imposed by diktat in 2010 with no negotiations, let alone agreement. We opposed it, but because there was virtually no recruitment going on at that time, very few workers were hit at first.
That said, this wasn't our only problem back then. The Troika was in town and many economists, commentators and politicians were baying for compulsory redundancies, more across-the-board pay reductions on top of the 14% average cuts already imposed, and widespread privatisation. These threats to all public servants, old and new, understandably took priority.
In any case, unions took it up at the first practical opportunity and got rid of the 2-tier pay scales in 2013. Now we need to deal with the length of the pay scales.
If the Public Service Stability Agreement is accepted in union ballots, we can pretty much get on with it right away.